So shoot your shot can mean a lot of different things, but if it means that you have to be the pursuer, cut it, leave it alone, don't even go there. If you're referring to just a little gesture here and there, like I said earlier, then hey, that's different. Just showing some type of interest, that's one thing. But being the aggressor, that is not it. Because if you end up with that person, you end up with that man, he's always going to wonder about the relationship. The one that he's going to be confident in is the one that he pointed out, he chose to pursue, and he went after. He's always not going to be 100% sure about that woman because he didn't put any effort into getting her. He pursued you. He's confident in who he chose to pursue. He's confident he chose you for a reason, and ideally speaking, he was drawn to you, ideally speaking, by God. But that is a more solid foundation than the woman going after him and him wondering, was this even somebody that I would have naturally got with or I was drawn to in the first place? This is a problem. You don't want the man to choose you because you're pursuing him. All right. Hey guys, it's Krista Nicole, and it's been a minute since I've done a video, so I'm really excited to be doing this video today. And this video is going to be all about pursuit, okay? It's very important to understand pursuit beyond the surface. We all know what pursuit is. You know, pursuit. A man is interested in you and he's showing it by doing certain things. Well, there's a lot more to it than just showing you certain things. So we're going to talk about it. All right, we're going to talk about it, go deeper. So I'm going to be reading from my book, God's Divine Plans for Marriage, A Guide to Understanding People as Wants, Needs, and Desires. And in this particular chapter, which is chapter 7, Preparation and Pursuit, we're going to be reading from page 94, where I talk about pursuit, understanding pursuit beyond the surface. Okay, and there's more to this talk about pursuit, but we're going to get to that in another video. Okay? Okay. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so men pursue, women choose. It's very important to understand pursuit because if you know more about pursuit, you can kind of recognize what you're dealing with. You can recognize if you need to hold or when to fold. You know, you can recognize if this is worth your time or not, if you want to keep going with this, etc., but you don't have to waste your time, basically. Another good reason to understand this is if you don't understand the order of things, if you don't understand kind of like some of the basic principles that lead to really good marriages, good relationships, then you're just going to waste a lot of time. And we're not here to waste time, right? So we're going to talk about this. And the good thing is this video is obviously beneficial to women, but it can also be very beneficial to men if you just substitute the word pursuit with interest. If you understand pursuit, you know when someone's wasting your time and just the order of things so that you don't get it wrong. For example, we don't want women to pursue. We know that, but I'm going to break it down why. And this book is all about choosing the right person for marriage, whether you're a man or a woman, just choosing the right person for marriage. And I'm going to be reading from chapter 7, Preparation and Pursuit, but this is going to be an insert about pursuit. The first part, okay? The second part is about types of pursuits, which is a whole nother video. But the first part is about understanding pursuit beyond the surface. Men pursue, women choose. And I break down why in about 2 pages. All right, so men pursue, women choose. All right. Usually when a man pursues, he is tunnel focused on the reformed Eve. He recognizes and has an unexplainable desire for. Now, I know that you're like, okay, what's a reformed Eve? What do you mean by need? Basically, who I'm referring to is the woman that the man has a desire for. He feels like this is the woman God is leading him to. Reformed Eve is a term that I use earlier in this chapter when I'm talking about preparation. But basically, it's the person that he recognizes is for him. So that woman would be considered the desire, and it's the one that's for him, and he recognizes that. So let's break this down. Usually when a man pursues, he's tunnel focused on that woman that he recognizes and has an unexplainable desire for. Basically, he has a knowing about this woman. It's just, he just has a knowing about this woman. Okay? Tunnel focus, keyword. Women are not naturally focused on pursuing. We're just not. I mean, naturally speaking, we're not. It is an act that is now culturally influenced. What am I talking about? Well, we all know that men shoot their shot, right? Well, it's been culturally influenced for women to also shoot their shot. Now, it depends on how you define shoot your shot. You can mean, I'm just going to show subtle interest, or it's going to mean you're going to come at them straight up aggressive, like, hey, what's up? I want to get with you. You can come aggressive with shooting your shot, or you can come subtle with a hi, some eye contact, something like that, or just, engaging in some friendly conversation. That is not what I'm referring to when I talk about shoot your shot. I am specifically referring to a woman being aggressive, a woman basically being the man, being the dude. Hey, what's up? I think you're cute. Can I get your number? That type of pursuit is what I'm going to be referring to when I talk about shoot your shot, just for a little context, okay? But you're not necessarily the aggressor in the situation. So, depends on how you define it. But for the sake of this video and this understanding, we're going to define that as the aggressor, the lady that's like, let me get at this dude, let me get his number, let me do this, let me do that, which is usually traditionally what the man did, because it was more natural for the man to do it and more natural for the woman to accept that. And there's reasons why. We'll get to that in a minute. Women are not naturally focused on pursuing. We're just not. Naturally. It is an act that is now culturally influenced. What do I mean by culturally influenced? Well, we're talking about the mentality of shooting your shot for ladies. All right, so where was I? However, women, can be pursued by more than one male giving her options. So the woman will have options. The man is not going to know that necessarily unless she reveals that to him. But if men are the pursuers, there may be more than one man pursuing her. So yes, women are not naturally focused on pursuing. It is an act that is now culturally influenced. However, women, can be pursued by more than one male giving her options. This is why she is in the position to choose. That's why women are in a position to choose. Simply put, men will show their interest in a woman, ideally, and she can pursue, or she can choose, not pursue. She can choose based on some things that we're going to talk about also in this book. This is why the woman's in position to choose, because different men can come at her and men will not know that. That's unbeknownst to a man that there are other pursuers for this particular person in some cases. The one who aligns with God's will, timing, windows, purpose, character, and lifestyle is chosen by the woman, ideally from a godly desire or a word from God. This is ideally. Does it happen all the time? No. Do people come up with their own standards and their own reasons to choose a guy? Yes. Or does society have a part to play in that? Absolutely. Women choose men as interests for various different reasons, and we all know what those reasons are. The typical reasons that society puts on us, like 6 feet, 6'6", you know what those are. Or if you don't know, it's 6 feet, 6 inches, 6 figures. Yeah. Or it could be, any variation of different reasons. It could be, a type. It could be all these different reasons women can, find interest in a man. But ideally, it's going to be from a desire, a godly desire for that man, or a word from God, depending on your relationship with God and how much you hear from him, or how much you're trained to hear from him. But ideally, she's going to choose based on timing, the window, the purpose, the character, and the lifestyle of that person. Now, back to the book. If the man is not pursuing, he is not putting himself in a position to be chosen by the type of woman who does not chase and or is led by the Holy Spirit. Let's break that down. So if the man is not pursuing, how can a woman choose him? She's not going to be in a position to choose. If the man is not pursuing the woman, he's not in a position to be chosen by a specific type of woman, the woman that doesn't chase and she's led by the Holy Spirit. Only a woman who does pursue or chase will choose a man who is not pursuing. Let's let that sink in. Let's let it pause for a second. Just take that in for a second. The reason why a woman who pursues or chases will choose a man that's not pursuing is because she's being the aggressor. One, he's not pursuing, and therefore she's choosing him versus him choosing her. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. Just, okay. A woman that pursues will choose a man that's not pursuing? How is that possible? I'll tell you. The reason why she's pursuing, it's real simple. The reason why she's pursuing is because he's not pursuing her. That's simply put, okay? If he's not pursuing her, she's going to chase or she's going to pursue. And the roles are reversed, basically. Secondly, she's the aggressor because he's not pursuing her. And that's where the mentality comes in, where it's like, women, shoot your shot. You know, it's because the man's not pursuing her. In some cases, most cases, probably all cases. Let's keep it 100. Okay, so here is the common mistake. This is the problem. If a woman pursues, which is not the same as showing interest, the man is now in the position to choose. This is a problem. You don't want the man to choose you because you're pursuing him. And I think this is low-key the real reason why men can be so standoffish when women are pursuing them constantly, whether it's through social media, usually through social media, but rarely in person, but usually through social media. They get really standoffish. You know, they don't know how to differentiate a friendly hi, from one of those aggressive women that's just like, you know, what's up? You know, I'm interested in you. You know, I want to get your number, etc., etc. You know, just acting like a man in that moment. They don't know what type of woman you are. So they're kind of very to themselves and kind of standoffish in person because of all this pursuit that's going on online. That's what I think the result is from the man being in a position to choose, is because of how society has shifted so much due to technology. In addition, back to the book, in addition, it is a turnoff to most men. The woman has to take on the man's role and is acting and thinking like a man. Men want to be men and naturally pursue. We've all heard about men like to be hunters. It's true. Men want to be men and naturally pursue. Understand, men will always remember the passiveness or aggressiveness of a woman's pursuit, which, this is the part, which can lead to regret, resentment, and or doubt regarding the relationship, especially during the challenging or hard times that are to come. So if he didn't pursue the woman, if he didn't pursue you, for example, no, I'm just kidding. If he didn't pursue the woman, if he didn't pursue you, so if a woman is pursuing and he didn't go after her, he did not choose to pursue her, and they end up in some type of situation, relationship, marriage, engagement, whatever the case is, if they end up together, he's always going to remember if she was that passive or aggressive pursuer that went after him and he didn't really even choose her in the first place. So that's in the back of a man's mind when he doesn't pursue you. So that's the problem. Doesn't work out for the woman's best interest, because the man is going to wonder, like, if you didn't pursue me, would I have really even been interested in you? If you didn't come at me so hardcore or seductively or whatever the case is, whatever you did to get that man through your pursuit, would I really be interested in you? So that can cause resentment and problems later down the line when you start bumping into different challenges and things like that, that generally come with most relationships, or most relationships. All right, just little challenges. That really does dictate to the foundation that is now faulty because the roles were reversed. So if the man had pursued the woman, then, he can figure out what's really going on, but he's not going to regret going after her because he already naturally went after her. If she went after him, that foundation is not solid. It's just not solid. To women, now this is very important. To build a solid foundation, ladies, allow the man to pursue without you using manipulation or seduction, which is not always physical. The tactic of manipulation and seduction can cause a man to be drawn to a woman who is most likely a want. We'll get to that later. Which is a person that doesn't have godly characteristics. They still have worldly characteristics. They're not bad people. They're not none like that. That's just the level that they're on. They're still operating through society norms. They're just operating through a kind of a carnal kind of way. They just haven't developed those godly characteristics yet. All right. So the tactic of manipulation and seduction can cause a man to be drawn to a woman who is most likely a want, just a person that has more worldly characteristics than godly characteristics. But it will be due to his experiences and issues within his soul, not the Holy Spirit. A man can initially discern these tactics. Okay? A man can initially discern these tactics and know they are not right, but he may ignore the discernment, the Holy Spirit, due to soul issues, sexual desires, and impatience. So he can know initially that, I'm not really feeling this person. Something doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is, or maybe she's a little too seductive, but let me tell you, them soul issues kick in, and he will still entertain that woman or become interested in that woman because of those soul issues, sexual desires, and in some cases just impatience, just ready to get into a relationship, ready to start something, and in the wait for this particular woman that's really better for him to come along. Okay, so what do I mean by soul issues? It's basically something that he's dealing with, which could be lust, it could be self-control, pain, a lack of healing, or pain which is masked through, sex. It could be through bad experiences. Like, all of these things are issues of the soul. So a man could choose that woman that's pursuing him because of these issues, whether he's lusting, whether he's dealing with his self-control, waiting, etc., etc. He just gets impatient, all of those things. And of course, sexual desires and impatience. Getting a man this way does not equate to keeping him or long-term happiness and respect. So when you get a man through seduction, when you get a man through manipulation, when you get a man that's any other way outside of God's ways, it does not lead to long-term happiness most of the time. I would say all the time. It does not lead to respect. In addition, You will not have the God-given grace for a man that God did not give you. So you can get that man, but are you going to be able to handle him? Are you going to be able to, stand the test of time with whatever comes along with that man and vice versa? No, because you're not going to have the grace, the God-given grace for that man. And that's that. Because you didn't get him through God. You didn't get him, it wasn't God, it was you. You know what I mean? So it was the woman. So that's why you're not going to have the God-given grace. You can have your own grace, which is limited and non-existent, to be honest. You can go through the motions, with tolerating certain things and maybe even settling for some things, but it's not a God-given grace unless God gives you that person or puts that person on your heart or gives you a desire for that person and vice versa. Then you'll have the God-given grace for that person. All right, so the same is true in reverse. A man will not have the God-given grace for a woman God did not give him. So you're going to wonder why, you can't handle this. You can't handle this. Why is this person irritating you? Why are they leading you away from God and not towards God? Why this? Why that? It's because you didn't go through the process of God for him to reveal his plan for you, for the person that's already in the plan. So if you go through it your own way, you select through your own standards and all those things based on society, cultural norms, cultural traditions, cultural influences, period, then, you're going to have to be also dealing with that person and their issues also on your own, because you're not going to have the grace for that person to stand the test of time for the long haul. All right. Women who pursue create future trust issues with the man they are pursuing, if a relationship ever evolves. They tend to wonder about other female pursuers having the ability to gain his attention, such as she did herself, versus knowing he is the type who must pursue a woman he chooses. So let's break that down. So if the woman is pursuing the man, she's going to wonder, and she gets that man, she's going to wonder about other women who are very similar to her, who have that same type of drive, that same type of pursuit, etc., getting that man, because that woman from experience knows that this man doesn't necessarily have to choose the woman. A woman could come at him and he can choose her. How does she know that? Because that was their situation. She went after him, they got together. Well, she's going to also wonder, can another woman with the same type of pursuit get him the same way I got him if her pursuit is strong? Of course she's going to think that, because he is the type of man that will get with a woman that he's not pursuing. Okay? All right, back to the book. Okay. This concern is valid, all right? A man who can begin a relationship after being pursued by a woman can repeat this process with a new woman after being pursued again. If the new woman's pursuit is strong and she fulfills his wants and or needs, her efforts will most likely result in an emotional or physical affair or even a new relationship. So he can just leave the other woman altogether. So that is why it's about a concern. That's why it causes trust issues. That's why you're not always 100% secure and confident in that man or that relationship or the situation that may be leading to a relationship because of how it started. And it's a valid reason. It's a valid reason. If you can get a man by pursuing him and he don't have to necessarily go after the woman, you're going to wonder if someone else could do the same thing. For both males and females to build and receive trust, it is best to allow the order of God. Men pursue, women choose. To take its course for the most solid foundation of trust. Now, if the man pursues and the woman chooses, that is the most solid foundation for trust. Because unless that man chooses to pursue other women, you're good. He pursued you. He's confident in who he chose to pursue. He's confident he chose you for a reason. And ideally speaking, he was drawn to you, ideally speaking, by God, etc., etc. So you're good. That is a more solid foundation than the woman going after him and him wondering, was this even somebody that I would have naturally got with or I was drawn to in the first place? I'm going to read a little bit of the ending of the conclusion. It talks about everything in this chapter, but I'm going to read this very last paragraph. If you have a desire to be married, allow God to orchestrate his plan from the preparation process to meeting the need he has prepared for you, to the discovery of the one who is the God-given desire, to the godly pursuit, and ultimately to the marriage ceremony and beyond. Remember, what is the goal for kingdom marriages? Dominion. To wrap this up, I just want to say clearly, it is so important for women to understand pursuit and for men to understand pursuit too. Because if a man doesn't understand pursuit as well and he's just kicking back, waiting for women to always come at him, it's not the natural order of God. So that man is always going to be on the fence. He's always going to feel indecisive. He's always not going to be 100% sure about that woman because he didn't put any effort into getting her. You got to understand, pursuit is intentional. Pursuit is effort towards getting a woman. And that's why in this next video, I break down the types of pursuits. Super important. That's going to be my part 2. The types of pursuits, because there are all these different types of pursuits. And depending on what it is, you can recognize, is this something you're in? And if not, you're not being pursued at this time. When that happens, you can identify what type of pursuit it is. Because there's different types of pursuits. We're going to get into that though. So I just wanted to read this insert from my book, God's Divine Plans for Marriage, in chapter, I believe this is 7. Let me see. In chapter 7, and this insert about pursuit, because again, if you do not know the order, men, you might be a little bit too passive in not pursuing because of the way society has changed and the way that women are coming at men these days. And for women, you're going to be too aggressive a lot of times if you don't understand that pursuing a man does not always, most likely than not, does not lead to the best ending. It is not the best foundation. It is not a solid foundation. And you want that man to feel confident that he chose you. He went after you. So shoot your shot can mean a lot of different things. But if it means that you have to be the pursuer, cut it, leave it alone. Don't even go there. I know society pushes that, but if you are a female, fall back. Don't shoot your shot. Now, if you're referring to just a little gesture here and there, like I said earlier, then hey, that's different. But, just showing some type of interest, that's one thing. But being the aggressor, that is not it. Because if you end up with that person, you end up with that man, he's always going to wonder about the relationship. Because the one that he's going to be confident in is the one that he pointed out, he chose to pursue, and he went after. All right. So thank you guys. I love you. I hope you understand pursuit a little bit more beyond the surface. And on the next video, I'm going to talk about the different types of pursuits. So stick with me. I'm going to be doing a lot more inserts from the book so that we can have a clear, well-rounded, solid understanding of what God's plan looks like when it comes to him orchestrating the marriage that he has already planned for you. So, all right, talk to you soon. Love you guys. Bye.